Hi, well, I'm joined this afternoon by Charlie Fitzgibbon from Edinburgh Construction. Charlie, great to meet you.
Likewise, Rupert, I'm excited to chat shop with you today.
Fantastic. Well, look, just as we get going, you've been on a pretty exciting journey over, what, 5 years now since you started Edinburgh Construction.
Yeah, we celebrated our fifth birthday in July. Yeah,
Fantastic. Well, many congratulations. Uh, 5 years in business is a pretty strong, pretty strong landmark. So just give us a flavour of what was it that took you into starting your own business?
I was, I guess, one answer is I was a terrible employee. I always had aspirations to have autonomy and do my own thing, and had ideas and visions as every young, arrogant person in their 20s does. I'd been working in construction since I left school at a very young age, and I'd spent a lot of time working under some fantastic people. I've always worked in construction and variations of construction, and I've been very fortunate to work with some fantastic companies and on some fantastic projects. But when you're in your 20s, I'm sure many people relate. You've always got this thing at the back of your head saying, "If this was me, I would do it better," and that was me. And to put myself to the test, I thought, well, let's do it. Let's have a go. So Edinburgh Construction has been incorporated for a little over 5 years now. However, we were trading a few years before that. And I've put myself to the test, put my money where my mouth is, and here we are, seeing if it's everything that I thought it would be.
Fantastic. So what were the two or three top things that you decided back at the beginning you wanted to make sure your business did that you'd been frustrated at not being able to do working for someone else?
Well, I'll caveat the question by saying I don't think I was ever frustrated working for somebody else. Like I said, I was very fortunate that I worked in some very good positions, some very good leaders led me. Um, so I've got to acknowledge that. But there's a few things that stands out to me in business and leading a good company, and just good values, people doing things right in a commercial environment. I quickly realized was a bit of a rarity. I think doing right by your customer is something that everybody talks about, but at least my experience was that when you saw things in practice, many companies were taking the easy route, which was to circumnavigate customers' interests and look after your own interests. And that never sat well with me. And I don't mean that in a fluffy, peace sign, save the world way. I mean that I think it's good business practice to actually do the right thing. So that was one thing that stood out to me. Another thing was creating a workplace that people enjoyed has always been quite important to me. We've all been in situations whereby we've dreaded Monday morning coming along, and we've got various pressures in our lives, and I've always aspired towards creating an environment whereby people look forward to their Mondays, and they can come in and they can do a good job and they can feel proud of it. So again, that sounds quite wishy-washy and airy-fairy, but I think it's good business practice. I think if your employees and well, I'll rephrase, if your team feels like they're enjoying themselves and they feel a part of the process and a part of the end product, it leads to good working practice. So I think those two things were key to me. Is I thought I started to recognize a disconnect and a dissonance between end product and delivery, and I guess I wanted to close that gap whereby us as the delivery team, the construction company, we're part of the journey of the client. We're part of the process. We're a partner, and closing that gap was quite important to me.
Yeah, no, absolutely, and I'd agree with you. I think putting the customer first makes eminent business sense. It's all about helping people so they keep coming back.
Yeah.
And I came across some great work on team engagement, probably about 20 something years ago now. And the amount of money that's lost to the economy by not focusing on looking after the team is huge. So
Yeah.
what have you actually done? What are the practical steps that you've taken to look after the team so that they have that enthusiasm for coming to work on a Monday morning?
So when I first started, I thought it would be easy. It's actually quite a difficult thing to penetrate. But I think it can be broken down in quite simple, overarching concepts. For example, giving autonomy. I think that if you empower your team by saying, look, this is your area of expertise, this is your project, you do what you do best. And my role here is the facilitator. It's not the dictator, it's the facilitator. I want to give you the platform so that you can do your job as best as you can do. And I think that goes a long way. Giving space, giving breathing room, giving some freedom so people can do what they do best. Because at the end of the day, we're all human beings with our own personalities, our own takes on life, our own view on the way things should be done. And as long as the end result is the same, as long as we all get there in the end, my view is that I'm just here to give the platform for other people to succeed within parameters. We can't go too off piece, because we've got to steward the success of the project. We've got to serve the vision and the ambitions of the client. But I think that something that I recognize is when you make it too confined a place to deliver a project, then the personality goes away. And I guess that's one thing. It's celebrating people's personalities and making that a component part of the product that we're producing. Our product is at the mercy of the people behind it. And if I put a lid on the people, then we're always going to be at a disadvantage as to how far this project could go and how much success it could lead. So I'd say that giving people freedom to make decisions, to make choices. I don't profess to be an expert in any particular field. I'm just here to steward the success of the project, make sure that the client's vision is fulfilled, and give people the power in between those two spaces to do the job right.
It's yeah, it's a fantastic philosophy, and I suppose it fits with a lot of the stuff I see every day with companies building great cultures. In your world, you're working in really quite a high risk environment. You're doing big scale construction. You've got guys working with, I guess, big bits of kit in a high risk area. For a lot of people, the idea of giving their teams that degree of freedom in a world which is traditionally really quite heavily controlled to manage those safety risks would probably be quite scary. So, what is it that you've done that's allowed you to be able to give them that freedom and manage the risks at the same time?
I think there's a few answers to that question. You have to keep a close watch. That's just being responsible. When I say give freedom, it's not anarchy. You have to be there, you have to be present, you have to be omnipresent with all things going on at all times, as difficult as that sounds. The construction sector, if I'm brutally honest, is very difficult. And I don't just say that because it's the sector that I work in, but for the reasons that you just said, there's a lot of risk on the line. There's capital risk, there's health and safety risk. There's a multitude of risks that you have to accept is carrying a lot of gravity, and you can't shy away from that fact. So you need to give autonomy, but also you need to be present to make sure that you're a guardian of a safe space. First and foremost. So, starting with capital risk, construction projects are cash intensive. There's a lot of capital on the line. And I find that the most successful avenue to pursue in that sense is systems and processes. So it sounds very boring. And an old boss of mine used to say that the most successful companies are the most boring companies. And you need to keep your eye on the ball of the boring stuff. You need to be checking in with the finances. You need to be checking with the numbers. If something doesn't look right, ask why. Even if it's, typically it's an honest answer, but you just need to have a finger on the pulse and say, what's going on here? What's going on there? Making sure that the finances aren't running away. You don't have any scope creep. Things are remaining within the parameters that you've set up. So capital risk is large. I think where construction industry, property development industry is one whereby there's a lot of capital investment versus margin. So you need to take that seriously. Arguably, even more seriously, you've got a health and safety responsibility. And I think I wouldn't be the first person to say that works in the construction and property development sector to say that the health and safety of our sectors came on a long way in recent years. Old bosses of mine who are of a different generation used to tell me stories that thinking about today makes my hair stand on end. I'm proud to be in a space whereby we operate with a lot of regulatory bodies paying close attention, saying, okay, if you do this, no, that's not okay. Construction sector is still one of the biggest contributors to workplace risks and accidents, and that can't be taken lightly. And that doesn't just have to be physical. And there's a new era that we're exploring as me as a person, me as the steward of our business, and me as a business within our industry, which is mental health as well. There's many thorns in this garden, and if you're not careful, it's easy to overlook some of the risks that are staring you in the face. And health and safety is one thing. Like, I'd like to say that we prioritize workplace health and safety before anything else. I want the same number of people going to work coming back. I want all those people to have the same number of digits coming back with the same number of digits.
Yeah.
But above all that, I want people to come to work with the same capacity in their own space to return with their own capacity in their headspace. Because when you're dealing with high capital volume, where there's a lot of pressures, that's a lot for a human being to digest. So it's multifaceted, but the risks are real. And if you're not paying attention to that, if you're not stewarding the success of that, then you're not doing your industry a service. Let's say that.
Yeah, absolutely. So, what is it that, what have been your biggest learnings as an employer since you began set up the business?
As an employer, trusting your gut feeling is probably the thing that comes to mind first. We've all been in situations whereby you've entered a discussion or you're interacting with a person, something just doesn't quite feel right, but you can't put your finger on it. It's usually a warning sign. So trusting the gut feeling, I think, is important. Another thing, as an employer, not every person is right for your space, and that's okay. I think when I started this business, as we spoke about earlier, I wanted to create a place where people come to work and they would enjoy it and all the rest of it. but your space isn't the space for everybody. And being comfortable with that and being accepting of that was a learning curve for me. Is that this is a very colourful world with lots of different stories going on, and not everybody's right for what you've created, and that's okay. And in fact, that's quite a positive thing, I think. So not being too precious about doing everything and solving all the world's problems has been something that I've gone through. And also just being very mindful of personalities and putting the right people in the right place. There's the whole thing about not asking a fish to fly. It's like you don't put someone in a place where they're not going to succeed, and vice versa.
So we hear a lot at the moment that recruiting people is tough across a whole range of sectors. The last couple of years since everyone emerged from lockdown, people seem to have reevaluated what they want from employment. How's that been for you?
Talk about that for days. It's a difficult problem. Sorry, problem's the wrong word. There's lots of answers to that question. So I think most people would agree that the COVID pandemic and the symptoms of has changed most industries, not just mine, not just yours, but a plethora of employment situations now has different parameters. I work in a sector whereby we need people on site. We deliver a physical product, and that's not the same across the board, but that's the situation that I deal with. We went through a period where we just could not employ the people that we were used to employing. It was bashing your head against a wall territory. It's like, where's everybody gone? And we, as a business, through the, if I can mention the C word, the COVID pandemic, we as a business made a decision that we're going to do our best to keep moving forward despite the circumstance. So we wrote letters to government, we wrote letters to our MP, we wrote letters to our local authorities saying, this is what we're doing. If you've got a problem, get in touch. And we did not close our doors for a single day. Now, our sector is a bit unique. The construction industry was actually encouraged to keep on moving through the pandemic. We were seen as key workers and all the rest of it. And also, as a construction worker, you can't work from home.
No.
It's physical, it's impractically, physically and impractically impossible. So we had to keep going no matter what we chose. But coming out of that period and now a post COVID pandemic situation, which, to be honest, maybe the COVID pandemic was just a catalyst for something that was already coming. Maybe this was upon us anyways, and this is just the thing that propelled it for us, because we live in a technology age where lots of things are possible. Here is you and I talking on online in different parts of the globe, and we're conducting things that this interview would have been impossible to do in different proximities in years past. So I think COVID's it's a nice coin for it, but I think this is maybe something that was coming anyways. And any business that fails to recognize that we live in a technological era is maybe skipping a beat. I personally like to see people sitting in seats at desks in a communal environment, because I think bringing people together typically leads to good things.
Yeah.
In many different ways. Like one thing that I've observed through all of this is, particularly in our junior staff, is the learning and the growth and the development has been cut off at the knees when you're working from home or you're doing things over Zoom. It's the small nuances of conversation that you overhear. It's the little bits of learning nuggets that you pick up when a more senior colleague is having a discussion with another senior colleague and you're in proximity. So I personally, I'm a believer in bringing people together as a positive energy. But as a business owner, I'm very aware that the expectation levels have changed, and you need to introduce a level of agility into your work environment. So we're doing our best within the constraints of our environment to allow agility where we've not allowed it before. Different working hours. Some of our staff work a few days at home a week versus in the office. However, that's caveated by you still need to get the job done. If the job isn't done, we're not going to support that. Recruitment over 2020 and 2021 was a serious challenge. It was a whole world that we weren't used to. I think over 2022 and 2023 things have stabilized somewhat. When we're a company that's always actively recruiting since day dot, we've never not been recruiting. And I think that the candidates that have came across our doorstep in that process has been very different over the past 2 years versus 3 to 4 years ago. So I think things are moving in the right direction. I think there's a little bit of normalization going on, but expectations have changed. And I could sit here and go, I think that's wrong. And you could sit there and say, I think that's right. But who are either of us to say? The markets dictate how business operates. So we just need to go with it. We need to be accepting that we're a small cog in a big machine of the economy, and recruitment is a resource that we rely on. And we need to be agile, we need to be flexible, and take recent events into consideration. I think the companies that are too entrenched in their own ideologies of this is how things should be are the ones that are missing out right now.
Yeah, absolutely. So where do you see yourself in 5 years? And what advice would you have for other business owners who are looking to grow?
Where I see myself in 5 years is just doing more of what we're doing, but more of it. We do have quite a deliberate business plan, which again is a whole other discussion, and I won't bore you or the people that watch this with, because it's quite specific to our business. So growth is a big part of our strategy, but sustainable growth more importantly. So we're not flash in the pan. We want to be here for the long run. It's easy to chase the shiny objects on the peripherals, but I do believe in having a plan, and even if it's a plan that's going to change, it gives you an orientation, it gives you a North Star to gear yourself towards. So in 5 years' time, as a personality, we're going to be much the same. As a character, we're going to be much the same, but just more of it, delivering more value and more benefit to our sector. The advice I would give, sorry, was the question to an 18-year-old self?
Yeah, it's the advice you'd give, whether it's to your 80-year-old self or indeed to other business owners looking to grow.
Other business owners looking to grow is know your industry. I think is very important. I think right now there's a lot of flash in the pans and easy to get started, but less easy to hang around. So I think it's really important to know your sector, know your industry, just know your stuff. Don't shy away from the fact that businesses are there to add value and to deliver value. Stay true to what you believe is right, I think is an important one. In today's age, there's so much advice coming at you from so many different angles. This person's telling you to do X, this person's telling you to do Y. Both sound good, both are credible, and you need to trust your own instincts to do what's right by your vision and plan. I know myself that I have deviated from my path on occasion whereby I thought, oh, that makes sense, or this makes sense, and you sort of go off piece, and it tends to bite you. So I think just knowing what you do best, having your eyes wide open, obviously, listening to peers and professionals around you is intrinsic to success. But following your gut, sticking by your instincts, making sure that what you're doing feels right at all times is important, because running a business is incredibly difficult. There's no business owner out there that says it's easy, and if they do, then they're full of BS. It's really not the case. This is a difficult thing to do, highly rewarding, full of satisfaction, all of that stuff, but really, really hard. And you've got to be tough enough, I guess, to weather those storms and to keep going when things are against you, which they happen every single day. You need to pick yourself up, blow off the dust, and keep going. So I guess it sounds a bit arbitrary and abstract, but just believing in yourself and following that through, no matter what this person tells you, that person tells you, keep going. And I guess the tricky bit is balancing that with good advice. You can't be ignorant and obnoxious and arrogant. Listen to people that have done it before. In fact, probably a better way of articulating it is maybe find people who are doing what you believe in and listening to them, and not listening to people that aren't doing what you believe in is maybe a different way of putting it.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's one of the mantras that sort of come in my past is very much you're the average of the five people you surround yourself with. Absolutely. So you might as well surround yourself with five incredible people who fit what you believe in and help you on the journey that you want to do. I mean, thank you very much. That's been really helpful. Focus on what you're doing. Trust your gut, and keep true to your values. That's brilliant advice.
Sounds simple. Sounds easy, but
if running a business was easy, everyone would be able to do it.
Very, very true.
It's why successful business owners are a precious commodity. But it's been brilliant. Thank you very much for your time. It's been brilliant chatting to you, and look forward to hearing more about your journey in the future.
Yeah, thank you for having me, Rupert. It's been a real pleasure.